first edition of With Joy, and we're at the Mill 180 Park visiting with Michael Sundell, the creator of this beautiful space.
Hello.
Hi, Michael.
Hello.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm
Thank you
so-
for having me.
Well, thank you for coming, and we're now in your beautiful location at 180 Pleasant Street.
Yes.
That is the correct address. Mm-hmm. What was your inspiration, Michael, for creating this beautiful space that you've got here at Pleasant Street, Building 180?
Well, thank you for asking. I've always loved parks. I've loved the large city parks like Central Park. I grew up in New York. I visited a lot when I was young, and then when I was in college, I learned the history of Central Park and the fact that it was built in the mid-19th century because the city had all sorts of problems. There was a large, poor working class population that lived in the slums, and they had nowhere nice to go. There was also a lot of stratification. The rich people and the poor people didn't mix. So the city leaders got together and said, let's build Central Park. And so I found it amazing when I first learned that even after 150 years, it was still such a successful, beautiful place. So I've always liked parks, and my professional background is technology and software. So I've had these two interests pretty much my whole adult life, and about 2.5 years ago they converged. And I said, why don't I try to build a park using technology? And that's what this is. It's because of technology, you can do things indoors that you didn't used to be able to do. You can use hydroponics to grow plants. You can use LED lights to keep the energy costs manageable. You have an efficient HVAC system to keep the cooling and heating manageable.
I'm sorry.
And that's fine.
Kids playing parks. Yeah.
And we're also writing software to manage the entire park, from the restaurant and the coffee bar to the visitors to the employees, to try to make everything both engaging and efficient.
I find it interesting that you're bringing the technology piece in with the hydroponics. Mm-hmm. And so where did you get the idea to combine the two of them and then to become almost a self-sustainable model? Is that what you're...
Actually, usually when you talk about technology and hydroponics, the idea is to use computers to get rid of the people, to grow everything as measure everything, grow it efficiently as possible, and have automated systems take care of the watering and the adding nutrients. Our approach is completely different. Okay. We use technology to try to make taking care of the plants enjoyable. So there is some stuff with hydroponics that's not fun, measuring pH levels, measuring nutrient levels. So that's what we use technology. But the idea is, just like people like to garden because it's fun, taking care of plants, even hydroponically, should be fun. So unlike most hydroponic facilities that use technology, we use it in a way to try to make the human actions in it just more enjoyable. And also to keep costs down by making what employees do more efficient. An example is, we don't have a dedicated restaurant staff. Every employee here does everything, and the software manages the staffing, so really when it's about to be crowded in the restaurant, people will go to work in the kitchen or work serving. But when it's not crowded, rather than having people wait around, people can walk around, talk to visitors, take care of the plants. So the approach of technology is, I think, unique in that respect.
So what was your aha moment when you envisioned having play area for children, an educational piece, and what's your vision going forward? I mean, where do you want to bring this? Do you want to bring this to other towns, cities?
Yes, I'm very glad you asked that.
Yeah.
My I guess, philosophy is that just like in the mid-19th century, people said there were a lot of problems and they built parks to help solve them. Looking at the country now, especially the inner cities, there are a lot of problems and no one seems to be doing anything about them. So, not to overstate how valuable a park would be, but if you think of a city like Milwaukee or Detroit, especially during the winter, there's really not much to do that's, entertaining, educational, not dangerous, not fun. So, the overall plan is to figure out in East Hampton how to make this successful and then build them in places that really need them.
I'm glad you mentioned East Hampton. So my question is, what brought you to East Hampton? Why East Hampton?
Well, I living in Northern Virginia, and I got to know East Hampton because my daughter started high school at Williston Northampton School.
Okay.
So I didn't really know Western Massachusetts at all. I knew Eastern Massachusetts, but I didn't know anything, and I got to know the area, especially East Hampton, and really like it. It was incredibly friendly. It was a great, diverse population with a whole lot of interest, a lot of craftspeople. So then when I decided that I wanted to do an indoor park, I just knew there were old mills in East Hampton, so I just, did an internet search, saw there was space available in Mill 180, met with Mike Michon, who's the owner of the mill, saw this space and said, why not? So it was extremely quick. I think most people would have probably thought about it, but my wife and I, we were visiting our daughter, we came up, we saw it, and we signed the lease pretty much immediately.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And then I've spent more and more time here. The city government, the city council, the mayor have been incredibly welcoming. So it's been a great place to do a project like this.
And did you envision this the way that it's set up now, or was it a work in progress?
It was done, I like to explain it like when my company writes software, we do it iteratively. Like we always make sure it's changeable. So a lot of people write software, they'll get a requirements document and just write the software. What we do is different. We kind of write it, see how it works, keep changing it. So this was designed in a similar way. We had an overall plan and we started to build it, and we said, well, why don't we build an amphitheater? So we added the amphitheater. And the architect I worked with was extremely accommodating in that respect. I think some people would get frustrated because everything kept changing, but I think the overall result, speaks to, I think, the benefit of that approach, at least for this project. So another example is, we had a design for where the turf ended and where the boardwalk began, and we laid the turf down and we noticed that it just seemed out of scale. The paths were dominating and it really needed to be a green area, so we shrunk that down. I will say it added cost and added time, but it was important to get it right.
And your wife, is she involved with, are you incorporated at this point?
We are. This is set up as a for-profit company, and that's just because philosophically I think, everyone talks about sustainability, but it's important to be financially sustainable.
Right.
And with a for-profit company, you have the discipline of a business, so you're not getting grants or donations, or, if we're a nonprofit, we could get, tax-deductible donations from people, but that's not really a good test on whether or not this is truly a good idea. So we're a Massachusetts LLC. My wife has been remarkably supportive. I like to say that most spouses would not say, great, I'm about to retire, why don't we spend our life savings on a park? But my wife was, never, doubted that this seemed like a fun thing to do.
And we're very grateful for it. Later on, as we're going through the park, we're going to be taking some candids, and we'll be able to show you some different things in the park that are conducive to children coming and visiting, places where adults can sit and meditate, and that obviously was your vision, correct?
Right.
I mean, that's kind of what...
I will say, you know, I've thought about parks for quite a while and what makes a park great, and there are certain things like beauty and tranquility and programming. So even though this is obviously relatively small for a city public park, you know, the idea is to, you know, design it in a way that kids can be running around and people can sit in, you know, in a quiet area and work on their laptops if they want to, and other people can be eating at the restaurant. So the design was to try to cram a lot into a fairly small space.
And talking about your restaurant, it's behind us over on the other side here. What's your vision for the restaurant? I know that you have some appetizers, other food, drinks, alcohol. You got obviously one of our beer and wine licenses. Do you use the produce that you grow here in your restaurant?
Yes, we do. The idea of the restaurant, you know, it started off saying, well, we have a park, we need a snack bar, and then it grew from there. We said, well, if we're going to serve food, we should try to make it as good as possible. So, you know, the restaurant, the only problem with the restaurant is since it's so time consuming to run a restaurant, and I don't want it to dominate everything, which it does have the potential to do. So, you know, and we also want employees to have time to take care of the plants and to, you know, put on a concert or an event. So we're trying, there's a balance between trying to serve, you know, food that people like and not spend all of our time serving food that people like. So
Right.
the idea of the restaurant is to have food that's simple to prepare in that once, you know, the chef comes up with a recipe, everybody, including, you know, people who've never cooked before, you know, let alone in a restaurant, can prepare it. So the menu items are chosen specifically to be interesting but not overly elaborate to prepare. We also do try to use what we grow, either completely like a salad or just to flavor the food. We have a bunch of homemade sodas that we make from what we grow. We have pickles from the cucumbers we grow, and over time, as we increase production, more and more of what we serve will be grown here.
That's just phenomenal.
Hey.
So, going through, and you know, my husband and I had the opportunity to walk around here earlier before we started filming, and I found it's almost like you have different sections for different things for people to do.
Yeah.
And I really love your little hutch or house or
Thank you.
house or I don't know what.
Mushroom house.
Mushroom
Right,
house.
right.
Yes, that's it. That's it. I really love that space. It's so unique and it's just so. It's like a little fairy house, but
Thank
adult
you.
size.
Thank you. Actually, that's a funny one. We, you know, literally it was going to be we were going to grow mushrooms in there. And then after it was built, we said, this is too nice to waste on mushrooms. And there's nothing special about growing mushrooms locally. You can buy them from Pennsylvania and they'll taste the same. So now it's basically a space where we have, you know, meetings there. Kids love to run around and climb through the windows. So, and the other part of that is because this is, you know, metaphorically an outside park, instead of rooms, we tried to build structures. So this would, you know, this was built in a way that if it was outside, it would be fine. It would deal with rain and snow. Obviously, it doesn't have to inside, but it's supposed to be like a little building as opposed to an indoor space.
Now, on the financial side, are you leasing space? Are you for meetings, for corporations to come in and hold trainings and things like that? Is that one of the things that you're entertaining?
We've gotten a lot of requests for that. It's somewhat of a thing we're still working out. Since this is supposed to be a public park, we don't want to shut it down completely, especially for a private event or a corporate event. we are going to have, you know, some events, civic events, charitable events. We have a teacher group coming that we will close it down one day, you know, for a few hours. If we've had a bunch of birthday parties, we have one today.
Oh, great.
And, you know, it's designed in a way that we can have an event and keep the park open. And that's pretty much the idea, that, you know, if people want to use it, just like, you know, you go to a park and you want to have a picnic, you know, you have your picnic, it doesn't disturb other people. The idea here is the same thing. It's supposed to be a, you know, public resource, so if people want to come in and have a meeting, you know, that's fine. We frown on people bringing in their own food, most because, you know, we do have plants and we don't want to have to go through what you're eating and see if you have vegetables. So the rule is, you know, really no outside food.
Okay.
We do allow birthday cakes with warning because, you know, for a birthday you kind of need a cake and I'm not going to bake it. But we're going to have and then we have certain events. We're scheduled to have a wedding on New Year's Eve.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I think we may shut down for that. But again, the goal is not to shut down unless there's a very good reason.
All right. And I noticed on your website, which is
No180park.com.
Yeah, people, please go to it. It's a wonderful website.
Thank you.
You did a very nice job designing it, and as
We use the local company to do that.
oh, good. It's very informative, and I see that you have a section where you have events.
Right. And we are trying to, you know, quickly ramp up the events. We've only been open 3 weeks, and we wanted to get the, you know, the restaurant, you know, in a way that if we had a rush, we wouldn't have people waiting for an hour. But I think we're there yet, so we're gonna start having events. We've had live music on Friday night.
Oh, nice.
We've been on the art walk. We are starting a cornhole league, and we have the same concrete artist from Holyoke who designed the bar and the sinks in the bathroom, designed special cornhole boards. So, you know,
Cornhole. We'll go over what the games are later as to what a cornhole game is. Maybe you could give me a lesson. Because I've seen it played, but I never really have played it myself, and I probably wouldn't be very good at it.
You'd probably be fine. It's, you know, that's one of those games, if you can't play cornhole, it's time to give it up.
Okay. Kind of like jarts.
Exactly.
But only with beanbags.
Yes.
A lot safer.
Yes. So we are going to have many more events scheduled in the next few weeks, because we do want people to come, and we think once people come, they'll enjoy themselves. So we're trying to figure out, you know, events that would make, you know, people want to, you know, show up. The other thing we want to do, even though we use technology, a lot of the idea is to get people to meet with each other and talk and actually interact, not on social media, but in person. So we're going to have, you know, talks, and not lectures so much as actual, you know, give and take. And that was one of the reasons for the amphitheater, because it's a good place for people to, you know, sit and discuss things.
Yeah. So, are you going to be doing informative talks about the hydroponics and your sustainable vegetable growing and herbs and things?
We will have some presentations, and the software, as I said, the software manages everything, including when visitors come. So there will be, you know, touch screens and games, and, and not a museum, but actually fun. You know, people will be asked to enter their observations, because there are going to be a lot of plants, and the more people who, you know, observe it and maybe take measurements, the easier it will be for us. So it will be more, you know, the hope is it will be more engaging than a typical, you know, hydroponic facility that says, you know, like if you go to Epcot Center, you can learn about hydroponics, but it's not really interactive. It's more we want to make it participatory.
Yeah. So are you going to, when people walk out of here, try to encourage them to go home and try to grow their own vegetables in their pots, and maybe how to do it?
I do hope so, because, you know, I did not know anything about hydroponics until about 2 years ago, and I actually like to putter around my hydroponics. It's kind of like gardening.
Yeah.
And it's strange if you think about it that everyone likes to garden, but then come the winter you just stop. And hydroponics is a good way to continue it. So we would like to, I'd like to encourage people to do it. And one of the things is I think the systems that are available kind of look like science projects, and it should be more attractive and easier to use and more fun to use. So one of the things we're working on is to develop systems for people to use at home.
That's awesome.
That would be nice looking. You'd grow food, because it is very easy. I mean, you can get a head of lettuce in 3 to 4 weeks hydroponically.
Wow.
I mean, it's really pretty easy. I mean, I think that's one of the things people don't realize. I mean, it's light, it's nutrient, and it's water, and you know, plants grow. They don't know they're not in soil. They just know they have everything they need, so they grow very quickly. And it's pretty hard to get it wrong. I mean, I like to say I've never killed a plant hydroponically, and it's not like I really know what I'm doing. It's just, you know, you just, you know,
well,
do
obviously,
everything.
you do know what you're doing,
Well,
because if you walk around here, the greenery and the plants that are growing are just, they're beautiful.
So a lot of
They're
the
beautiful.
staff have learned, and they've gotten very good at it. I won't say, I don't want to overstate, I don't know what I'm doing, but it's very easy to learn, is what I'm trying to say. There's nothing magical about, you know, growing hydroponically.
Yeah. No, I'm just totally amazed by it, because I was raised on a traditional farm here in East Hampton, at the foot of the mountain. My grandfather went to UMass, Stockbridge, graduate of animal husbandry. So I was raised with the cows and the chickens and the pigs and my horse, and so I mean, there wasn't a day that I wouldn't come in from outside that I wasn't filthy from head to toe. And yeah, you know, there's something about getting my hands into the dirt and digging, and it's just such a soothing release of stress that.
Right. But you probably don't do it during the winter, right?
No,
yeah, so
I have my indoor plants, but yeah, they're.
But not.
Yeah, no, I'm not digging in the dirt. No, it's more shoveling the snow.
Well, hopefully soon you'll be doing it in the winter.
And that brings me back to this park theme that you have now created is not dependent on anything that's happening on the outside. This is its own little ecosystem, its own little world in this space, so that if it is raining and it's horrid and it's sleeting and snowing, you can come in here and still get that sunshiny vitamin D feeling, and
and that's the idea, because you know, I mean, everyone recognizes that, you know, nature and plants are good for people, especially for kids. And yet, if you think about it, no one thinks about what happens during the winter or when it's raining. So that is exactly the point, that this is useful, you know, no matter what the weather is. If it's too hot, it's comfortable. If it's too cold, if it's snowing, if it's raining, if it's dark outside, you know, you can come in and have a park. And that's the idea.
And it's wonderful, because today is a dreary, drizzly, icky day. And we're in here nice and comfortable, and it's a wonderful thing.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
That's the goal.
So I think we're going to take a break for a few minutes and get something to drink if you want, and then we'll just kind of. So, Michael, thank you. Thank you for allowing us into your beautiful space. We appreciate it. And when we come back, if there's something else that you want to tell us about,
thank you.
Please do.
Thank you for coming. I hope you return many times.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I will.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is Joy WInnie signing off from With Joy.